think of a bond, if you're just like, what the heck is a bond? Think of a bond really as nothing more than an IOU. Or think of it just as a loan. That's basically what bonds are, is they are loans. The simple definition is two parties go into an agreement where one party lends the other party money, and just like any other loan, right, there's going to be a face value to this IOU. Maybe in this case, why don't we make the face value of this IOU, this loan, right? Why don't we make it $100? And that often happens is the bond value itself, what we call face value, is a big round number like $100. And so literally this is a loan between two parties, right? The lender is going to give the borrower, this is my crazy writing here, right? The lender is going to give the borrower X amount of dollars, right? The IOU, or the face value of the loan. And the borrower is simply agreeing that at some point down the road, they're going to pay the loan back. Fairly straightforward stuff, eh? It's just a loan between the lender and the borrower. And in this case, we're going to say the loan is $100. The problem in this world, right, and let's say in this particular case, we're going to agree to a 10-year loan, right? So this would be a 10-year bond. Remember, if we go back to our yield curve, 10-year bonds, that's very popular. That's very normal duration for a bond. We could have made it 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years. There's multiple durations, right? So in this particular case, we're going to assume that two parties are going to go into an agreement. One party is going to loan the other party $100. That is what we call the face value of the bond. Okay? Simple as that. Now, as we said just a moment ago, I started saying it. If this is a 10-year bond, we need to understand, because of the effects of inflation, $100 loaned today is not going to be the same as $100 in 10 years' time. In fact, if you just, there's a nice simple rule in the marketplace that says if you can achieve 7.2%, and heaven forbid inflation's running at 7.2%, but 7.2%, your money doubles every 10 years. So technically speaking, if prevailing interest rates were 7.2%, this bond, this $100 loan, 10 years from now, it's going to be, the purchasing power of this $100 is going to be half that, or $50. So how do you take that into account? And this is where we get into sort of the nuances of our society and this concept of usury and stuff like that. And that is this concept of interest. What we need to understand is that interest in itself is nothing more than just an attempt to offset interest. Let's see if I can spell interest, right? Interest. There you go. Way to go. Probably totally butchered that. Interest is nothing more than a way to address that inflation. So, you know, for example, if prevailing interest rates in the market were 5%, then the lender is going to say, hey, You know, this $100 that I'm lending you today, it's not going to have the same purchasing power in 10 years' time. So I want to be compensated. I don't want to lose money on this if I lend you it. So how are we going to do that? And the answer is interest payments. So if I wanted to if I wanted to take out this loan, let's say I'm the borrower, and prevailing interest rates in the marketplace were 5%. What this really means is, on an annual basis, I should be paying the lender $5 to offset the effects of inflation, right? Usually bonds have quarterly payments. And so what ends up happening, and this is very normal practice, is attached to the bond are going to be 4 annual payments. And if this is a 10-year bond, then that means that in total, there's going to be 40 of these little payments. And, you know, we'll just for simplicity's sake, let's spread this out so that, you know, let's say our bond had 40 sides, right? And so here's 1 year's payments, right? 4 payments. And these payments should come out to $5. Now, understand that when we go into this deal, everything, it is literally a contract. So that means that everything here needs to be stipulated, written out in plain English, so you can stand in front of a judge and say, look, here are the terms of the deal. This person didn't honor the terms. Please, judge, correct this. So what that means literally is each of these little interest payments needs to total $5, or each of these little interest payments are literally going to have printed right on them $1.25. All right. So $1.25 times 4 equals $5. And so now, every quarter, so this might be like January 1st, this might be April 1st, this might be July 1st, and this might be October 1st, right? Every quarter, the lender, right, who holds this bond now, right, in exchange for giving me $100, I've given him this piece of paper that says it's an IOU for $100, and attached to it are going to be 40 little interest payments. And quite literally, on the calendar date that it's written, January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, October 1st, the lender is simply going to take, and they hold the bond now, they're going to take one of these payments and hand it to me. And remember, each of these, this basically has $1.25 written right on it, right? They're going to tear it off of the bond. Come on, all right? Nice 125 there. They're going to tear it off of the bond, and they're going to hand it to me and say, can I please have my $1.25? It's just that simple. And in fact, we call these coupons. And if you think about the newspaper, right? People open up the newspaper and they leaf through and, oh, this store's having a sale, but you got to hand in the coupon. Same thing. The lender who has this bond now, they lent me $100. I owe them $100. They're going to tear off this coupon, hand it to me, and I'm going to give them $1.25 in that interest, and that interest is nothing more than the effect to offset inflation. I had said a moment ago that this is where we get into the nuances of the bond market and why people hate banks and the money lenders and all that, because, and you've heard of the concept of usury, really the point of interest is to do nothing more than offset the effects of inflation. Hopefully you guys can appreciate that sometimes people, they're pretty desperate for money. And Mr. Lender here, he might really grind me. Even though prevailing interest rates are 5%, he might say, well, I want 20% interest. And so in this case, you say, but wait a minute, prevailing interest rates are 5%, right? And this guy says, well, too damn bad. You want my money? These are my terms. And, this is where people, get angry at money lenders and, banks and stuff like that, because technically there is no, you absolutely have to charge the rate of inflation. Really, this rate, whatever rate the lender and the borrower agree to, that's stipulated on the bond, and once it's in writing, it's in writing. And a lot of people get very angry at money lenders for charging exorbitant amounts of interest. Also to keep in mind that the rate that you're going to be charged, the lender's going to charge you, is also going to be a function of what the lender perceives is the riskiness that the borrower is not going to pay the money back. So obviously, if your credit rating is not so good, the lender is going to insist on a little bit more of a premium in interest to take on the additional risk of loaning this money to you because, hey, you have a history of maybe not paying those loans back. So with that said, right, in essence, the bond market just operates like this. It is, in essence, a loan with coupons attached, and these coupons are fixed at the time that the loan is floated. Now, the important thing here is that if we go into an agreement, the lender and the borrower, we go into an agreement for a 10-year deal, basically nothing changes here through the duration of the bond. If the lender, has taken this bond from me and lent me $100, if the lender holds on to the bond till maturity, he should get this $100 back at the end of that 10-year term. Not really any debate about it. In fact, there are a lot of people that go into the bond market and buy discounted bonds, and we'll talk about why they get discounted in a moment, and they simply hold on to the bonds to maturity and they collect the face value of the bond. But the bottom line here is that when we wrote this deal between the lender and the borrower, myself and the lender, we agreed to an interest payment, and everything here stays fixed. These coupons do not change. They can't change. They basically have $1.25 written right on them. So this brings us to the second part of the conversation, and that is, let's say that the lender, maybe 5 years into the term, right? He's been collecting interest from me, all happy, tickety-boo, for 5 years. But now all of a sudden, 5 years, halfway through the term of the loan, the lender has decided that, hey, you know what? I kind of want my money back. He could come to me and say, Brian, I know we agreed to a 10-year deal, but it's 5 years. I kind of need that $100. Is there any chance you can pay it back? Typically borrowers, and myself, I'll say, well, I'm sorry, we agreed to a 10-year deal. I'm going to just stick to 10 years. Thank you very much. I don't have an obligation halfway through the term to give the money back. So Mr. Lender, needing whatever money he can get, has to go to the marketplace. And this is where the confusion about interest rates and about bond prices comes in. Remember, if the lender holds on to the bond until maturity, nothing changes here. He's going to get his $100 back. He's going to get his regular coupon payments. Nothing changes. But if the lender says halfway through the term, hey, I kind of want to get out of this deal, I want to get some money, then he has to go to the bond market, the open market, and see if he can sell this bond, right, into the open marketplace. And this is where it gets tricky. Because, of course, prevailing interest rates never stay static. They're always changing. So the question ultimately becomes, and in this scenario, we'll use a really extreme scenario. But in this scenario, let's assume that interest rates in the open marketplace are not 5% anymore. They're now 10%. They've literally doubled. Remember, at 5%, my annual payment on $100 was $5. Now that interest rates have gone to 10%, my annual payments on this $100 face value are not $5 anymore. They have to be, if we keep the price at $100, they have to be $10. That's a big change, isn't it? But the problem is that when we wrote the bond to begin with, these coupons, right, the coupon that the investor tears off and hands to me for the payment, they were set at $5, right? Actually, they were set at $1.25 each, and 4 of them paid out annually comes out to $5. So how do we deal with this problem? Since the coupons are fixed, we can't change the coupon. The payment is $5. So if prevailing interest rates are 10%, then if the payment is $5 annually, that can't change, then something else must change. And that is the price of the bond in the open marketplace. While yes, the face value of the bond is $100, and at maturity, the bond will expire at $100, and I will, as the borrower, whoever owns this bond, because the lender now has gone to the marketplace and he wants to sell it into the marketplace, who knows who's going to buy it off him. This is the only thing that can move in the open marketplace. So if the payment is fixed at $5, these coupons, what does the price of this $100 face value bond have to be to equate to 10% interest? And the answer is, in the open marketplace, the only way for this $5 annual payment in interest to equal 10% is if the price of the bond in the marketplace is reduced in price. In fact, to make $5 payment annually equal 10% yield, the bond price itself can't be $100. It's got to be cut down so that this $5 payment equals 10%, or in other words, the new price of the bond in the marketplace is $50. Now, keep in mind, this is a really dramatic example. Interest rates don't double right away. In fact, it takes a long, long, long time for interest rates to double. But in essence, in the open marketplace at 10% interest now, this bond price will trade at $50. It has to. It has no choice. Because now at $50 in the open marketplace, these fixed coupons, $5 payment annually, $5 payment on $50 is 10%. Now, as I said, that's one direction we could go. And this is sort of a worst case scenario, right? Nobody likes when interest rates go cranking up. What's another scenario, and hopefully this, you'll be able to answer this question on your own. But let's say that the opposite scenario happened, where interest rates didn't go up, but interest rates actually went down. Let's say prevailing interest rates in the marketplace went to 2.5%, right? At 2.5% prevailing interest rates, what does this bond price have to be so that a $5 annual payment, remember the coupons are fixed, what does this bond price have to be in the marketplace so that $5 payment equals 2.5%? And the answer in this case is the bond trades up in price to $200. So at $200, remember the original face value is $100. $5 annual payment comes out to 5%. At 10% annual interest, $5 fixed payment, the bond price has to be $50. At 2.5% prevailing interest rates, $5 fixed payment, the bond price has to be $200. And so as you can see, this bond price, it is very flexible, right? It will move up in price, it will move down in price in the open marketplace, depending on what prevailing interest rates are. And you can see this is quite an extreme. Bond price $50, bond price fair value $100, bond price $200, twice the fair value. And please remember, right, at maturity, at the end of this 10-year term, whoever owns this bond now in the marketplace, I have agreed that I am going to pay them $100, the loan amount of the bond, regardless of whatever the prevailing interest rate is in the marketplace and what the prevailing open market price of the bond is. And as I had said earlier, there are some people in this world that literally shop for these deeply discounted bonds, where I am going to pay $50 for this bond because the bond happened to have been floated when interest rates were a lot lower. So as a result, interest rates went up, and now these bond prices are discounted. I'm going to buy this bond at $50, and I'm going to simply hold on to it to maturity, right? In this case, we said that the lender, after 5 years, wanted to get out of the bond and sell it into the marketplace. So, you know, as we said in our first scenario, interest rates went cranking up to 10%. So this bond in the open marketplace at $50. There are people in the market that simply go and buy deeply discounted bonds, hold on to them to maturity, and in essence, that is a doubling of their investment. That's a capital gain, any way you look at it. So hopefully this explains how the bond market works, how fixed interest rates on the coupons, right, are taken into account in the open marketplace given prevailing interest rates. All right, actually, you know what? I think we're going to have to end the tutorial there so far.